Hi everyone, and welcome to my end of September updates, and I'm going to start with my new acquisition. This is Phalaenopsis Yungho Gelb Canary that I got from Kingfisher Orchids. So this is the first plant I've bought from them, and it came with 2 spikes and 2 buds on the 1 spike. And you can see this one is opening. It's not quite open yet, but I really like it. It's white in the center with a pale yellow on the outside, and I think the inner details make it really nice. Like, I don't think I would have bought it if it didn't have those markings on the inside. So yeah, this is new in my collection. So back to the Vanda corner. There's not a whole lot going on in terms of growth, but I'll point out a few things. This is Ascocentrum curvifolium, and I decided to take it out of the basket and put it on a mount. What I did was I wrapped the roots more tightly around the mount. I'm hoping that I can encourage more root growth. It did have, I think, 2 fresh roots, and in one of the old roots there was actually a new root growing from one of the really old roots. So that's good, but I'm hoping for more root growth. Most of these have just been tidied up. This is my Phal javanica. I was finally able to get the 3.5-inch pots. I couldn't find them for the longest time, so I bought a bunch of those, and I decided to put this in a smaller pot. So that's changed. On my Aerides houlletiana, I cleaned up the roots a little bit. I didn't cut anything off. I just kind of gathered them and tied them up here just so there's more space underneath. And this is my Rhynchorides Bangkok sunset. It's growing a new leaf, and it's really happy in this moss and clay pot. It's pushing out some roots, so that's really good. And this is Thecostele alata. These 2 bulbs are being used up, so they're kind of hollow now actually. But there's a new growth there, and there's one there as well. Alright, so these are my flask babies. So one change I did was I refreshed all the moss, and from the Paraphalaenopsi laycockii seedlings, I only had 1 casualty. The Dendrobiums were fine. For the Dendrobiums, I put all the bigger ones in this container and then all the really small ones in here. And everyone is doing really well. It looks wet because I just watered them, but yeah. Alrighty, so I just want to quickly talk about this shelf, or these 2 shelves, and the 2 shelves in the other room. I think last time I mentioned I had a thrips problem. Don't think it was such a huge problem, but I definitely noticed on some plants that I had a problem. So I purchased some predatory mites that would help to get rid of them. I think it's mostly resolved. It was hard to tell if it did any work because the problem wasn't, I did not have a massive problem, but when I was watering them yesterday, I had a close look and most of the plants were fine. I still have a few plants that I saw a couple thrips on, so I've left them aside. But I guess in conclusion, I think the thrips problem is under control. I do still have a few plants that are isolated because when I was watering yesterday, I still saw that they had thrips. So if they last the week with no visual indicators, I'll put them back. So these 2 are isolated. So this one is Ctsm tigrinum crossed with kleberianum. And then this one is Coryanthes misasii. So I've just put them to the side for now. And this is Coryanthes leucocorys. This one is also isolated, but not because it has thrips, but because I didn't want it to get thrips when placing it with the other plants. Previously, I noted that there was a new growth here. Hasn't done anything, but then I noticed just yesterday there's a new growth here, and it's actually growing, so that's good. This is Dendrobium scabrilingue, and it's finally pushing out a couple new growths, so that's good. And this is my SLC World Vacation Shibuya Sunset, and it's starting a new growth in the middle there. And this is my Restrepia gutalatta. So this one had a pretty bad problem with them. All the new growths were shriveling up, but I noticed all the leaves are kind of growing in, not as big as the previous ones, but they're growing in, and I didn't see any signs of thrips, so I put them back. So this is the most exciting thing so far. My Stelis macrantha is starting to push out a flower spike. Actually, I saw one last week, but it dried up. But this one seems like it's actually going to go somewhere, so we'll see. And this is my Poroglossum jose, and I did end up losing a few leaves. I wonder if the light's too bright. Probably is, but it's still pushing out new growth, so that's good. And yes, I do still cover it. I just took it off so I can film it. This is my Galeandra Bowery. So the new growth on this one died, but this one seems to be doing pretty well, so that's good. And this is Bulbophyllum anandele. It was in bloom and then it's not. And this is Cattleya dormaniana, and it is actively growing. So this is Cloecia russellianum crossed with Ctsm tigrinum. It was in bloom, and I do have a video for it. And this is Papilionanthe taiwaniana, and it's pushing out this new growth. And also there's one at the bottom too. And this is Catasetum gladiatorium crossed with barbatum, and it's in bud. And this is my LC Supersonic Striking Lip, and it has that new growth there. And you can see in the back there is my Trichoglottis pusilla. It's starting a new leaf. It's actually getting kind of big and kind of flopping from the mount. So I have a plan for that. And this is the other one that's isolated due to the remaining thrips, and it's Bulbophyllum pseudoacei. I didn't see any on today. I saw one yesterday and I squished it. I tried to catch some with fruit slices, but I haven't seen any yet. This is Angraecum germanianum, and it's still kind of weird at the top here, but there are a lot of new growth. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4. This is Bulbophyllum saltatorium variation albociliatum. And 2 interesting things are these new growths. They're interesting because they look slightly different from how the new growths usually look. So I'm wondering if something is going to happen, like a flower spike. And this is my Neophonetia falcata Kitsuamushi, and it has a new growth. And this is Polycygnus barbata, and its latest growth seems to be doing pretty okay. And this is Chysis levis, and it started pushing out a new growth. But yeah, I should mention that for the Chysis, I ended up potting it into that 4-inch pot that the old Phal javanica was in, mainly because like the roots were so packed in its old pot that I thought it probably needed more space. So it's in here now. This is Neophonetia falcata Hakcho, and it's pushing out a new growth. This is Pedangus dactyloceras, and it's pushing out a new leaf. And this is Dendrobium coroniferum. Not much to say about the plant itself, but I also potted this in a 3.5-inch pot. I couldn't get any lava rock around the sides here because the old pot and the new pot are kind of the same around the top, so I just tried to put some around the bottom, and the rest is just airspace, which is fine. I just wanted a bit more stability for the pot itself. And this is Pilantanthera tenoglossum, and the 2 buds finally bloomed. And this is my Chysis liminghay alba, and it's coming into bloom. So this is the other exciting thing that's happening. This is Phalaenopsis or Sideria subparietii, and it's pushing out a flower spike. And this is Phalaenopsis amboinensis, and it's working on this leaf. I didn't get any buds on that flower spike, and I suspect I'm not going to see any buds until next year. This is Brachypeza lautica, and it's working on this leaf. For some reason it's split here, so I've also repotted this into a nicer pot instead of a makeshift pot. And what I've done is I put a chunk of charcoal inside just so it's not fully rock wool. And I did the same with the Ornithochilus deformis. I repotted it into a proper pot with a chunk of charcoal inside and rock wool. This one doesn't have much of a root system as the Brachypeza, but it is pushing out new roots, so that's good. This is my Dendrobium bellatillum, and it is finally pushing out a new root tip. So hopefully I can get a new growth out of this. Very, very slow growing, but it seems to be growing at least a little bit. Alrighty, so that's my video for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!